Each month, $3 supporters at Patreon and Subscribestar get to ask me anything, and $5 supporters can give me a shout-out. So let's look at the questions supporters asked in June, and if you'd like to ask a question for this month, the links are below. Let's start out on Patreon, where Darth Vega asks, "What's your favorite computer game of all time?" Come on, you know I don't do superlatives. My brain just doesn't work that way. Kinda depends on what your criteria are. If you're talking about the one that I wasted most of my youthful time on, that has to be Tetris. Both the arcade and later the Amiga versions meant I never really got bored. If you're talking about the one I remember most fondly as being the best, most unique experience I had, that has to be the Myst series. I loved the whole idea of entering another world through books, exploring and figuring out what was going on. And it was completely relaxing. There was no time limit, no hand-eye anything, just figure out the mystery. That's my answer today. Ask me again some other time and I might give you different answers. That's my big issue with superlatives. Sid Padmanabhan asks, "How true do you think the phrase 'get woke, go broke' actually is, if at all?" I think we've seen it is. Look how many ventures have lost money from it. When your criteria for hiring people is anything other than the most qualified among the applicants, things are going to suffer. And it's even worse when you're pandering to an audience. The remake of The Little Mermaid is a perfect example. After all that marketing and hype about a black Ariel, although the raw numbers look impressive and reviews have been positive, they fell some $30 million short of what Disney needed to make a profit. Now, imagine if they hadn't done all of that pandering. Imagine, too, if they hadn't spent some $200 million convincing people this is a movie they should see and like. Imagine if they had treated this as anything other than a cash grab. They likely would have made a lot more money than they did. Imagine also if, instead of putting Ariel in blackface, they had told one of the many African mermaid stories. It's easy to see the failure when it's a bad movie, but although I haven't seen it, the audience reviews on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes are impressive. So even when it's an apparently good movie, it still fails. Just focus on making a good movie and promoting it enough to make money and let the market take care of the rest. That worked well with many badly promoted movies like The Princess Bride. Katniss Everdeen didn't need wokeness. Neither did Ellen Ripley or Sarah Connor or Buffy Summers or Xena. Lawrence Fishburne didn't need it as Morpheus. Grace Jones, Nichelle Nichols, Eartha Kitt, I can go on and on. Can we please stop pretending that blacks and women haven't always been readily accepted in the genre? Over on Subscribestar, Wouter Voss asks, "What is the detailed argument for fraud being a violation of the NAP?" Because you're not holding up your side of the agreement. If you sell a painting as a genuine Van Gogh when it's really a copy, then after you sold the fake, you still haven't fulfilled your side of the contract. You haven't delivered the product you promised, to wit, a genuine Van Gogh. I'm happy to read a book on this. It doesn't have to be in the video. There are plenty of books on this. Murray Rothbard goes into this in both The Ethics of Liberty and For a New Liberty. I can go into a lot of detail on this, and I'm very annoyed by my current understanding of this issue. There's a very common assertion that fraud is a violation of the NAP, yet I've never heard a good argument why, and I feel like I have very good arguments against it. Maybe my arguments can easily be refuted. Okay, great, bring it on. The best arguments for fraud being a violation of the NAP I heard? 1. A man can promise a woman marriage for sex. Making this illegal is very similar to the current situation we have in society, where governments will make such a man pay the woman a lot of money. This results in women being much less selective in who they have sex with. It reduces their ability to bond, the quality of relationships, and the quality of parenting. Not really sure what this argument is. As long as he makes it clear the arrangement is marriage for sex, no fraud is taking place. And as soon as you get government involved, you've already got a NAP violation, so that's the end of that. 2. Criminals will use fraud to take advantage of people. Such actions are unfortunate, but can be dealt with in much better ways. How it's dealt with is a separate issue. It's still a violation of the NAP. Even if the Van Gogh is never discovered to be a forgery, it just means you got away with a NAP violation, not that there never was a NAP violation. Arguments against fraud being a violation of the NAP? 1. A core element of the NAP is that violence is justified to stop the violation. Fraud is much better dealt with through reputation damage than violence. This has worked great on eBay. Remember that it's only as much force as required to prevent or correct for the violation. In the Van Gogh example, if you pay $1 million more for a genuine Van Gogh than you would a copy, then that's the amount you've been defrauded. And the solution is to force the seller to return the $1 million to you, and maybe a bit extra for all the crap he put you through. 2. Fraud requires the victim to be fooled. When the victim realizes what's going on before damage is done, it can be prevented and the fraud is irrelevant. The fraudster can still suffer reputation loss. This motivates people to pay attention to what's going on. Just because you corrected it before the damage was done doesn't make it not a NAP violation. Someone tries to kill someone else. A third person stops them before they can. Stopping the attempt before the damage was done doesn't make it not a NAP violation. 3. The NAP is not a catch-all for negative behavior. It's not about negative behavior. It's about violating their property rights. Finally, Thomas Urbanski asks, there is a lot of entertainment and art pieces that are anti-capitalist, pro-government, and so on. B-movie seems to be one of the rare counterexamples. Can you recommend some games, movies, books, or musicians that don't make libertarians politically cringe? In a reply, Wouter Voss mentioned The Matrix and V for Vendetta. He also linked to David Bose of the Cato Institute, giving his 10 best libertarian movies. There's also Serenity, 1984, Fahrenheit 451, Harrison Bergeron, Paint Your Wagon, Ghostbusters, A Bug's Life. They're around. You just have to pay attention. Well, can you believe half the year's over already? Thanks so much for watching. Until next month, comments for the comment god, shares for the share throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell, and go to donate.bogosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. Thanks again, and until next time, stay strong and be free.